walled city and had gardens all around it and greenery all around it and beautiful spires and everything glowed. Everything was just like ice. It was beautiful, it just glowed. And as I got closer, I realized that there was somebody standing down by the gate. It was a gate. It wasn't a door because I remember it was an arch, a beautiful arch. Well, I
Hello, everyone. I'm Janet Tarantino, the host of Exploring Everything Spiritual and the author of Dying to See Revelations about God, Jesus, Our Pathways, and the Nature of the Soul. Today's guest is Sandra Rose, who had a remarkable journey of survival that started and expanded from the pits of a life-threatening polio epidemic in 1952 to the powerful moments of a second near-death experience that redefined her purpose to one of courage, faith, and transformation. Today, we will hear about her harrowing journey when she died from polio and then become the sole child survivor to defy the odds of the illness in her own town. We'll hear about her profound spiritual awakening to love, forgiveness, and hope that followed her when she had a second NDE, flew to heaven, and saw her dead relatives. Welcome, Sandra, to the show.
thank you so much. It is a pleasure to be with you today, Janet.
Great. I'm so happy that you agreed to come. Your story sounds mind-blowing. So can you tell us what happened?
Well, I've been so blessed to have these things happen to me. I do a program called The Glimpse of Heaven, and we all wonder, when we die, what is heaven? Is it real? Do we all go to heaven? Is God real? We have all of these questions. Until you go, you don't know. Well, unfortunately, we all die. We're all going to die sooner or later. But every now and then, there's some of us that go over and come back. And then we come back with a message of what we have seen and what we share. I know there's in my faith as a Baptist Sunday school kid forever, you're supposed to go to heaven when Jesus comes back. Well, I went to heaven directly. So I'm going to tell you what happened to me and what I saw when I got there. As you stated, in 1952, there was a horrible epidemic going across America. We didn't have any vaccines back then. And there's two kinds of polio. One is called spinal bulbar. That's the killer. And then there was another one that has another name that was a crippler. And you'll see people, I'm in 78, my age, maybe have crippled legs or shriveled legs. Well, that was that other kind of polio. Well, I was a typical little kid. I had three brothers, playing out, and all of a sudden I wasn't feeling very good. And this wasn't like me to do that. I remember laying in my mother's bed and the doctor came to the house because I couldn't breathe and I hurt all over. They rushed. I remember laying in the back of my father's car and being rushed to Glens Falls Hospital and all that commotion. And I'm trying to breathe. I remember being placed on a stretcher and all of a sudden I was going down the hall. They were pushing me so fast that the lights went. I was being pushed down the hall as fast as they could. All of a sudden, the brakes went on, screech. They stopped. A man climbed on my chest and he opened my throat. They had to perform a tracheotomy on my throat. I was suffocating. And then they had to get me going up to the intensive care unit and put me into an iron lung. Now, the iron lung really is exactly what it says. It's an iron lung. I could not breathe with my type of spinal bulbar polio. All of my muscles were paralyzed. Nothing worked. And that machine would put pressure on my body and compress my chest down, release the pressure, up came my chest. So my little head was sticking out of this submarine looking thing or a big culvert. I call it more of a submarine. And they had portholes because they had to take care of my needs. And I just remember not liking this thing on my throat, not liking not being able to move. All my eyes I had a mirror up here, just watching what was going. A little kid that was terrified, had no idea what was going on. Well, that was a Saturday afternoon. By Tuesday or so, there were 10 of us in Glens Falls Hospital. 10 children in the same town. Now that's unusual to have that many in one place. And I remember Thursday, I don't remember Thursday, mother told me. On Thursday, there was only one child left, me. On Friday, they called my mom and said, Mrs. Duell, my name is Duell, that's my family name. You need to come to the hospital because Sandy isn't going to make it. We're going to lose her too. So my dad was working. So my mother went up to the hospital, and she told me that she sat with our young Dr. Friedman. He was a young doctor just starting out at that time. He's my hero. And he and the nurse and mother sat with me and watched me die. And I had a little pug nose, and all they could see was this part of my face through the mirror because everything else was on the iron lung. And I died. They just shut off the iron lung. And I don't know how long mother sat there. She didn't tell me how long it was, but she said she watched the color go out of my face and everything. And she was sitting in the twilight of the day. It was kind of getting dark in the room. And I guess think what any other mother thinks about when you lose a child type of thing, you know? And all of a sudden she heard this noise, clunk, and she got up and walked over to the iron lung and peered in. I was kicking the side of the iron lung. I had come back. And then my little gray nose got pink, 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 pink. I was back. Now, it wasn't an easy thing coming back. Um, the spinal bulbar really affected my brain, the fever of my brain, that I had to imagine learning to walk and talk all over at 7. I had to be taught how to imagine every muscle is moving, and they had to teach everything, every word. I had to learn to talk all over again. Well, once I got talking, I never stopped talking. My uncle called me chatterbox, but anyway, it was an amazing experience to realize that why did I live and not the other 9 kids? I'm just an everyday kid, a regular hardworking family, upstate New York, Lake George, Glens Falls area. Why did I live and not the other kids? Well, I used to feel guilty about that. And that bothered me for a long time. Well, that was the first one. Now, the second one, I remember vividly and very colorful. So I'm going to share you with the colors. Um, I was in my 30s, and I had my 3 children. Now, I was still trying to have a good life, a Sunday school teacher, a mother, was married. My twins were Eric and Katrina, and then I had Bobby 5 years later. And I had young teenagers. I was happy. I was a single mom. Life was okay. And I had had a cervical cancer and some other precancerous and biopsy after biopsy over the last year and a half. It was really getting to be a bit distressing what's going to get me next. And there's watching a tumor the size of a walnut grow to the size of a cantaloupe in just 3 weeks' time. So they said, Sandy, you've got to have a hysterectomy. I said, well, I'd rather do that than keep suffering like this all the time. I have my kids. I'm happy. Go ahead and do it, Jim. And Jim O'Keefe is my doctor. Well, we went. I woke up. Oh, wow. What a relief. It's gone. The uterus is gone. No more cancer. No more of this. No more of that. So the nurse comes in and says, let's go for a walk. I go, well, that sounds good to me. Well, I remember it was a huge incision because it was a huge tumor. So walking, call it I waddled down the hallway, but it was so nice to be alive and so nice to be walking out, just walking and know that I have a life ahead of me with my kids, right? Well, I remember her I'm very tall and she's short. I'm 6 foot tall. And she pulled my shoulders back. And I remember a searing pain, very, very burning pain in my abdomen. And oh, it hurt. I got back to my room. I remember crawling into my bed saying, thank you, Lord, I'm in bed finally. And it was afternoon because it was still daylight. And I had a nice roommate and I was chatting with her. I said, I want to go to sleep. I'm really tired. I've had enough of this. And I remember going to sleep. And then when I woke up, it was dark in the room. And my roommate had the television, how they flicker up. All it was television. I thought, oh gosh, I feel wet. I thought, oh dear, I've wet the bed. That's not so good. So I thought, oh dear, what am I going to do? Well, my right arm was on a rigid IV board and the call button was over there. So I said to my roommate, please call the nurse, turn on, I think I wet myself. Oh my gosh. Well, I was so embarrassed, but she turned on the light. All I heard was her screams and mine. Colorful red. Picture the blankets across my belly. They were saturated. They were bright red. There was the red right there. Oh gosh. Well, I didn't have to worry about that for very long because doctor came running in. I'm up here watching the whole thing. I just go whoop, through no effort of my own. I'm not hurting anymore. Well, this is really kind of nice. Look at that. I knew that was me down there, but I really didn't care. I wasn't hurting. That's what I cared about. And I was up watching. I thought, this is really neat. I could see what they were doing to my body and trying to stop the bleeding. And I thought, wow, I've heard about people raising out of their bodies. I never thought it would be me. This is really kind of fun. And I floated around up for a little while, I guess. And then I remember kind of turning over a little bit and looking up and realizing that the ceiling of my room had opened up into an aperture and I saw sky. And I thought, oh, okay. And with no effort of my own, right up I went. It's like being in a low flying aircraft. Uh, well, Glens Falls. Well, there's the falls. There's the hospital. There's my house. I can see my house over there. Look at that. That's really cool. I can see my house. And there's the roads and there's the Hudson River. This is really great. I'm going to go fly around. Well, I didn't fly around for very long. So all of a sudden I realized I'm in the cloud level now. I'm getting higher up where big jets are. This is beautiful. I'm up in the clouds. This is just unbelievable. Well, then I started to realize that I was moving faster and faster and faster. And I tried to tell people what was it like. Well, the old TV show Star Trek, remember they talk about the Starship Enterprise going into warp speed? Well, I was going through stars. I know some people say that when they pass, they go through a tunnel, they go through a void. It was the most beautiful stars and just galaxy. It was gorgeous. I don't know how long I flew. There's no time in my mind, but I remember seeing just stars and stars and stars and stars. And it was just, oh, wow, this is incredible. And then I felt myself begin to decelerate a little bit. And I looked kind of ahead of me. I remember seeing like a sunrise coming up over and something very, very bright ahead of me. And it got slower and slower. And it was like this big, big walled city and had gardens all around it and greenery all around it and beautiful spires and everything glowed. Everything was just like ice. It was beautiful, it just glowed. And as I got closer, I realized that there was somebody standing down by the gate. It was a gate. It wasn't a door because I remember it was an arch, a beautiful arch. And you know how you think, okay, when I die, who am I going to see? Well, I figured it'd be my brother Billy. He was killed in a train accident when he was 17. And Billy is a playful spirit. On occasion, I felt him playing in the car with my friends and I. He likes to go right in the car with us sometimes. Nope, it wasn't Bill. I thought maybe my mom and dad, maybe, my friend Mark. I don't, oh my gosh, it's my grandfather, Jim Dool. I never would have thought it until now. I look back on it, and all those puzzle pieces of your life all now came together. Yes, I was one of many grandchildren for Jim Dool. He always treated me special. I got to take care of his two big Belgian draft horses, Major and Dan. This little, kid, 9-year-old kid, took these beautiful horses down to the stream all by herself. I think they would have gone by themselves anyway. And I like parades, so he would take me to Memorial Day parades and buy me an ice cream. Uh, when he talked to me, I was the only person in the world to him. My parents were too busy to talk to me. Everyone else was too busy to talk to me, and I was too shy to ask. Well, Grandpa would sit down and with his two dogs and his pipe up on either side and would talk to me about anything. Then he would go in and bring out his Whitman, little Whitman sampler chocolates and let me choose. And he knew I liked the raspberry kind. Well, I remember when he died, I was in high school and he was young. He was in his 60s. So he had a circulatory problem, so he amputated one leg and he would take off the second one. The man I saw there was young, but it was my grandfather, without any doubt, with the overalls. It was him with two legs. He was whole. And he was so happy to see me. And I thought, where am I? Where am I? This beautiful greenery all around. And this wall, I didn't feel like it was a wall to keep people out. It was kind of contain the gardens in and keep this garden out. Well, we walked through this beautiful archway with columns and into this courtyard. And it was just this colonnade that went on forever, just beautiful colonnade going that way. And over this way were all kinds of flowers and trees. And I know we have beautiful colors in our minds here. I like color, obviously, my glass and everything, but our colors are so dull to the colors in heaven. Those colors are so bright. And all those beautiful flowers, even though there is just an array of flowers, the fragrances all melted together into a gorgeous, gorgeous fragrance. And fountains and tinkling noises. I heard music, but I didn't hear people other than my grandfather. I didn't hear anyone speaking. And I wanted to touch everything. I wanted to touch because those leaves of those flowers were just, they sparkle, they were alive. Like everything was so, so alive. And it made me feel so alive. And I wanted to touch, the walls had relief on them, beautiful carvings and the calm. So I was touching everything. And after, I don't know how long it was, Grandpa finally said, Sandy, we have to move along. Well, I was happy right where I was. I was in heaven. I was happy. Well, he walked me into the next courtyard. And then he came over to a door and he stopped. And he said, Sandy, you have to go in alone. I can't go with you. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. Oh, I was scared. I didn't want to go in there. I don't know who was in there. I don't know what was in there. So I said he said, don't be afraid. You have to go in. So as I stepped into this room, it was very, very bright, large and bright. And in the middle of the room was, I call an ornate desk. And behind that desk was a very shining entity, a very alive energy entity. And I heard the words, don't be afraid. Once I heard that voice, I wasn't afraid. And he said, come here. And you know how a child is going to get scolded? You're kind of walking up to the desk like, oh, the teacher's going to talk to me, you know? And he said, Sandra, I gave you a second life. What of value have you done with it? Well, I was a mom. I was a Sunday school teacher. Was there anything special about that? No, not, no. I thought, oh, no. I know I could have stayed in heaven that day. I had teenagers back home. And though my ex-husband is a good dad to them, I really felt that I would be a better influence. The two of us would be better than one of us. And I said, dear God, if you will let me go back, I promise you, I will do something of value and I will make a difference. And zip, I was back in my body. Oh, did I hurt? Oh, did I hurt? And it took a long time. When I talked to my doctor, Dr. O'Keefe, afterward, he said, Sandra, I've never seen a human lose as much blood as you did and still survive. And I told Jim about happened. Jim and I have stayed friends until I left New York and came to Florida. He and I were friends up until the very last day because he and I shared a very, very special experience together. Well, what am I going to do? I'm going to have to uh, make out what am I supposed to do? I made a promise. What am I going to do? So I thought, well, okay. I have something special I'd like to tell you about because, see, 2 years prior to this near-death experience, I had committed, I thought, a serious sin. I've been raised that you sin, you can't go to heaven. God forgives you. I never forgave myself, but God would forgive you. Well, this is what had happened as a single mother. I was having a hard time trying to be a single mother with my 3 kids, but I was doing the best that I could. And I had come from a marriage that didn't have a lot of romance in it and a lot of things that I used to think a girl should have in her life. I was married very young and had twins when I was 20. So I really kind of lost out on some things. Well, I met this man, Carl, and I fell in love with him. And I thought he loved me. He was fun. He made me feel beautiful. He made me feel desirable. He made me think I was special to him and everybody else. And he took me to fun places and took me out to dinner, and took me to theater and all the things I like to do. Well, it was going to be Christmas and he was going to come down to my house because I had kept my house as a single mom with my kids. And he was going to come down and visit us for Christmas Eve. I thought this is really exciting because I had something special to tell him. We were engaged to be married in February. Well, I was pregnant with his baby, 3 months pregnant with Carl's baby. Now, Carl had been married before. He was older than I was, and my parents disowned me, so that was not a good thing, but I understand where they're coming from. But Carl had 2 adopted children. He never had any children of his own, and they were adult children. And I thought my kids were really well behaved kids. The teachers told me that they were very well behaved kids for divorced kids. Didn't know they were, but anyway, they were good kids. And Carl came down and he brought the gifts for the kids. And he said, oh, I have something special for you. So I was expecting that diamond ring, it's
Mhm.
Valentine's Day is coming. This is Christmas, something special, right? So I went into the living room with the kids and they looked at their gifts from Carl and they had a good time. And, he was always generous. So that was, they were having a good time with them. And then went to the dining room. He said, there's something I have to talk to you about. I go, well, yeah. Not in more details of the wedding, I was hoping, right? Silly girl. And he said, I like you. I go, you like me? Um, I think I love you. You think you love me. Okay. But I just cannot face raising teenagers again. And I said, raising teenagers again, these are good kids. No, I can't. We have to stop seeing each other. Right now, like today, yeah, I can't see you anymore. I didn't say a word after that. He got up and he left the house. And I sat there. My kids were in the living room. They were having a good time. I put on the smiley face, walked in, talked to my kids, sent them off to bed. Um, what am I going to do? So, how Kleenexes are used for tears? No, they don't work. No, I grabbed a couple washcloths and I went into my room and I put my face into my pillow and I cried alligator tears. I felt stupid, used, all the negative words you think about yourself, about making a mistake. And here I am, a single mom trying to take care of my kids. Now, what am I going to do with a baby now? I have a career, but I have no parents to help me with the child. Carl's gone out of my life. What on earth am I going to do? I don't know. And unfortunately, at that moment, and that was the lowest moment of my life, I decided to end my life. And I I was so heartbroken. I know I love my kids. I just felt so ashamed. And when the family just told me for dating him. Can you imagine if they had realized I was pregnant with this child too? And no, it was just maybe their father was a better person alone than with me in their lives. Maybe I'm not such a good mother after all. And I took enough pills to kill me. When I went to sleep expecting to die, I woke up the next morning, Christmas morning, and the kids come bebopping in. Oh, okay. I didn't feel very good. I felt really, really badly and went into some severe pains. And I didn't die, but that baby did. I miscarried that baby early Christmas morning. So that is something that I have carried with me for over 30 years, something I've
Yeah.
never talked about until just this last year. Because what happened, remember, this near death experience happened 2 years after that. So now I realize, okay, I've got to do something really special for God. So I started to go to retreats and studied. Maxie Dunham's little book, Dancing at My Funeral. I just, who is Sandy? I don't know. I was Sandy Doyle, my mother's daughter, my father's daughter. You have to get perfect grades in school and all these different things. I had three brothers. Um, then I was a wife, and then I was a mother, and now I'm a single mother, and my life is in shatters. Who am I? What am I? I don't know. What am I going to do? So I found some solace in retreat. So this one was one that was unusual. It was Easter weekend. And this one had 20 of the same members of the same church going. And usually we are the facilitators and then maybe attendees too. But no, even my pastor, Clayton, and his wife were there as participants. And then they had an outside group that was doing. But the question is, who is God? Is he real? And what does he mean to you? Well, I figured that's going to be perfect for me because now I can say who God really is. I can tell these people because I've kept a lot of secrets inside of me for a long, long time. So normally I'm the A personality person who likes to be in charge. So I always drive my car. Well, this time I didn't have my car. I was hurrying to get the kids out to see their dad, so I didn't take any rain gear with me because it said it's going to rain. But I didn't even think. I just wanted to get going. Barbara was ready. We had to go. Drove about 50 miles from home up into the mountains. As we go up the mountain, the clouds are hanging down on the trees. It was beautiful. You go into the Sky Farm. It's a big, beautiful lodge up on the side of a hill. And we got there and we had a really pleasant socialization because we all knew each other. We've been in saying things in the church for years together. I've been at church forever. And we then went into the study room to begin our study. And they handed out the little tablets and they handed out the pens. And oh, by the way, everybody, this is the silent retreat. There'll be no talking between husbands, wives, or anybody. Silence. Oh, well, that's fine. I'm a single mother. I've been alone a lot in my life. I'm okay with Sandy by herself. Give me some music. I'm fine. Well, I went into the lodge room. All my friends were going outside because they had rain gear on. Well, I forgot my rain gear, so no, I'm not going to do that. So I went in. I found a big, comfortable chair. I kind of plunked myself down into it and got all nice and comfy. And I started to read the questions. I don't remember what the questions are today, but they, for some reason, something triggered something in me, and I started to squirm. And I started to go, I don't feel so good. I don't want to be here. Now, my personality is when I get afraid or I get hurt, I run. I'm a runner. And I'm not a confronter, I'm a runner. And I don't want to be, I want to go home. I didn't have a car. And I live 50 miles south of there, but I was going to run home. I stood up, I threw my tablet on the floor, and I went running out that double door. Kawonk! I mean, I knocked those doors wide open, went charging out. And in my peripheral, I could see my friends saying, "What is she doing? What is she doing?" You know, they were around this circle, around these trees. It's a circular driveway. And I go, "Oh, dear gosh." I remember kind of backing up against a tree stump and had my hands together and just my eyes were closed. I go, "Oh, oh, dear God, why am I here? Dear God, why am I here? Why?" Oops. All of a sudden, I wasn't getting rained on. I opened up my eyes and I was enshrouded in beautiful, soft light. I felt as though I was being embraced by angel wings or a big white fluffy blanket. I felt loved. I felt safe. I felt cared for right then and there. I thought, oh, wow, this is something. And then what does this mean? Am I going to die? And what does this mean? Am I going to die? Um, then I heard the words just as clearly, Sandra, this is exactly where you're supposed to be. This is the beginning. And I put my hands down. This is the beginning. Okay. I walked back into the lodge, crawled into bed. Remember, silent retreat, no talking. And I slept the best sleep I've had as long as I can remember because I had. When I woke up, that had to have been a dream. There's no way that wonderful experience happened to me. Just Sandy. No one special, just a girl like anybody else, right? Well, what 8 o'clock came and my friends, what happened? They were all, what happened, Sandy? You tell me. So I figured, okay, who's going to tell me the truth, right? Clayton will, right? He's the pastor. He's not going to lie to me. He's going to tell me the truth. I said, Clayton, what did you say? He said, Sandy, what was, you were enshrouded in this white column of light and you glowed. You just glowed. What was that? So I said, Clayton, did you hear any words? No. So I go to Shirley, his wife. Sandy, it was a white in white, but no words. Ruth, no, none of them had heard the word, but I had 19 witnesses to that really happened that day. So I told them what was going on in my life and what I was trying to do. Clayton, my pastor, who does not share his pulpit with anyone that I know of, said, Sandy, I would like you to get up front. And I was a shy kid at the time. And I have to get up and tell the story to our congregation, what happened here today. We'll be there with you. I said, okay. Now that's the first time I've ever shared that story, anything really, to anybody. And it was just, the beginning. I knew that this was the beginning of where I needed to find my direction and validation. But the white light was definitely the validation. What better validation can you get than hearing God say, this is where you're supposed to be? Now I have to find my way. So doing that, I I did get psychological help. I needed it because I was really hurting. I was depressed. I had anxiety. I was trying to raise my kids. I felt all this guilt about the baby. I felt the guilt about my kids living a hard life because I was a witch to live with when I was going through this. I really was not very pleasant to be with, and that's not my nature. And they gave it a horrible name as borderline personality disorder, but it was not a good thing. And fortunately, with this Dr. Menzel, he realized what was going on, and with his help to teach me how to handle these situations and respond to them correctly in a very, really low dose medications, put me right back to being absolutely normal. But I have a chemical imbalance in my brain. I will always have that. And no matter what happens, we can starve to death. I'm not going to give my little bottle of that up because that little medication just makes me feel very at ease. But with Dr. Menzel, I'm a person who's a visual person. And I remember I always felt that this mental illness terror of what I had to get off my back, the baby and everything, was a purple dragon. So I couldn't reach it. So I had to give it a name. It's called the purple dragon. And I went through and started to work on all these different things. In the process, I learned that I developed a value worth living, but I also realized I could let my past control me. And that's what was happening. I was letting my past control me. I had to take control of that. The past can't hurt me unless I let it, but I was letting it. So I was determined to slay that beast. That purple dragon is going to get off of me, and she is never coming back. So I was determined to do that. And as I said, it was a terrible time for my kids because I was not a pleasant person. I was working extra hours to try to provide them with a home. I was I didn't know who I was. My life was just in a horrible turmoil. And they really did well considering. But one particular, I'd like to say kind of fun thing about one of the particular psychologist sessions that I had. Dr. Brines knew us, and it was where I was gotten beyond the heavy duty into more of the lightweight problems I was dealing with. And I trusted him because remember, I'm an A personality. I'm strong, so it takes a strong person to kind of weed me in. And he put the 10 of us who we knew each other pretty well from probably 6 weeks of being in group together. And he said, now, I want you each to imagine yourself as an inanimate object. Now, to me, an inanimate object is a lamp, a book, a tape. I'm a person. I'm not an object. I don't know. I don't think so. And I thought, oh dear. So I sat back, and the other 9 people all answered. One was a lion. One was a tiger. They were all aggressive things. Well, they were more aggressive. What am I? I have no idea. I'm not one of those. So I go like this. Oh, dear God, please. Please, please, please. I don't want to be stupid. I don't want to be something I'm not. What am I? And the words came to me, and he loves me so much. I am a Tiffany lamp. I am
Oh,
beautiful and fractured into 1,000 little pieces. I will never be the same, but I can be made whole again someday. And that is what I said, okay, I'm really on the way. I'm really on the way. And it was all kind of, I've done I got through that, and I got to where my head was really in a good place, and I had remarried, and life was, I was working at church. I was working with Saratoga Hospital, helping with their mental health people, because I was studying to be a mental psychiatric social worker. I was working in hospice. I had a Hollywood actor as a client. That was fun.
oh, wow.
It was wonderful. He was so sweet. He and I sang together. And it was a fun thing, but still, I helped people pass. And all these years, up until just 2 years ago, well, COVID kind of stopped everything for a while. But
Yeah.
I'd helped 7 people pass by holding in my arms. And that's not it either. And I kept saying, I'm missing something. I'm not listening. I'm trying to guess what God wants me to do. And Sandy shut the mouth and opened the ears. And well, he hit me with a rock. I'm 6 foot tall, as I said, and I was walking into the front foyer to get something out of the front room. And all of a sudden I started to pass out. Now I'd had complicated lumbar surgery the fall before. And this was May, and I was falling backwards. And I guess, oh my gosh, I'm going to fall on my back and I'm going to undo my surgery, right? So as I woke up just enough, I threw my arms behind me and I fell straight down like a tree. My head hit the glass door, and there's an edge that holds the glass into the bonk, bonk, bonk on my head a couple times, slid down onto my hands and started to scream. My poor husband came running. There I was, crunched on the floor. I had broken both of my wrists, 2 vertebrae in my back and my neck, and I had a concussion. I was really hurt badly. Well, I stopped then. He stopped me in my tracks. Well, when we were recovering, my poor husband, he had so much fun. He got to hose me down in the shower. He had to feed me like a baby because my hands were the size of, big
Mhm.
sausages. But as I sat there and I look out my bedroom window, laying in bed, and there's a pond out there and watching the ducks and everything. And I said to myself, dear God, I should have died. My doctor said people don't usually survive this, Sandy, and you've had some really bad near-death experiences, and there's something he still isn't taking you back yet. You're not done. What is it that you haven't finished? I don't know, but I'm going to find out because I've got to do this. It's a promise I made to God, and I'm going to do it. So help me. Well, I remember sitting there with my hands like this and looking out the window and just saying, "Dear God, please tell me what you want me to do. I don't know. Do you want me to do it? No. Listen." And I heard it as clear as he saying next to me, "Get up, get well, and tell your story. All of it. Not just the good stuff, all of it. The good and the bad. They need to hear the whole story." I didn't want to tell the whole story. I want to be that nice church lady who people think is nice and perfect. I'm not. I'm not. I'm human. And as I started to sit there, I said to my husband, "Please get a tablet," because I couldn't write. And actually, what I am actually giving you, he gave me the bullet points. God gave me the bullet points for this. And as we go on, I first met Deb Davis. It's a Ions and Cocoa. And I was doing my first presentation to her in February. This is all new. Well, I've been doing this a year now. And as I was in the middle of my presentation, and my daughter, I had a little slideshow back then, and all of a sudden they went off bullet because God had said, talk about a broken heart. Well, he told me to speak about Christmas Eve, which I did. My mental health problems, which I've only now talked about, never wanted to talk to anybody about that. Now I actually gave the words borderline personality disorder. I've overcome that and I'm well. Thank you. And his forgiveness and his love for us and his promise of everlasting life and how to heal a broken heart. Now, I used to think a broken heart's two words. Well, when you had a broken heart and you know it, it's real. It hurts. And that's how I've survived to where I am today. I've dealt with my broken heart. So he said, but you have to share with other people what you learn to do for yourself. So what I do is I take this is the last little picture I keep, the little broken heart. Okay. Mm-hmm. Your heart is all cracked. Now picture each of those. It's like an Advent little drawer, and picture little brass doorknobs on each of those heart pieces. And this is your heart. And when I do in-person meetings, I give them this cute little bag of a heart, a cute little heart, and little blue stones and little colored stones. So they have all these cute little stones to look at. Well, then I say, take the heart and hold it on your heart like this. Now, okay, we can't deal with all the hurts in our heart at one time. It's just we have little holes and big holes and whatever. So, okay, let's pretend that Aunt Bessie was mean to me. Aunt Bessie was a witch or whatever. But you're angry because Aunt Bessie hurt your feelings. Well, open up the Aunt Bessie door. Now, take out the Aunt Bessie and throw it away. We don't need her anymore. Take out the garbage. Now, was there anything good about Aunt Bessie at all? If not, it's a beautiful day today. The sun is shining. Put that in your little heart and close the door. Now, go to the next one, maybe a little more serious. I had to get to the big one about the baby, and I had to get to the big one about Carl, and get to the big one about my parents. That took a lot of getting to, but you one by one, as you start to go, each one gets the first one's the hardest. When you start to do it and your shoulders start to go back and your chest opens up and you go, wow, I can breathe. I feel really good. This feels great. Now, don't push yourself. Give yourself time. This all takes time. Remember, it's taken me 20 years to get to this point, so don't expect it to happen overnight. It took me a long time to learn this process, and I share it with my friends. And I tell them, don't think about what I said. Think about what you heard and learned about yourself in my conversation. Now, take it home. Do not put it in your purse. Do not put it in your pocket. Hang it on your fridge. Every day, you go to that heart and say, I love you. I'm going to be strong. I love you. Now, when we talked about the Tiffany lamp, well, what does a lamp do? A lamp shines down, doesn't it? Why does it help? Whoever's sitting underneath it, like this one lamp here, what good is that other than it's something nice to look at? No, that's not what God wants me to do. He wants me to take all of those pieces of colored Sandra and share them with the world. And that is what I give them, these little glass beads of hearts. And I talk about them. Now, what have you learned from me? take this to your friends and give it away. I want you to give me away. Give anything that I've told you that means something to you to somebody else and pass it on. And it's you just reach up and you reach out and you hug them. I love to do a live meeting because I love to see their faces and actually touch them and hug them. And you say, be kind to yourself and take one step at a time. But remember, God is right there. And don't be afraid to ask. Don't try to guess what he wants because Sandy messed up. Listen. And I'll tell you, it's just this last year has been the most incredible, fast track things. I've over 70,000 people have heard my voice in just a year's time. So we are
Wow.
given that gift. That gift is life. Don't waste your life. Death is not the end of life, it's only the beginning, but don't waste what you have here. Learn to forgive and learn to love. And if there's somebody out there that you love and you haven't told them, tell them. And that's really the gist of what I do and what I like to share with people and share what I've learned. And that is my purpose, is to share what I've learned and my ways of dealing with the challenges. And I've had multiple illnesses and, as I said, NDEs, and I shouldn't be here, but I'm still here. And I'm grateful for that. And I'm grateful that God chose me to be a messenger. That's a very special gift. I like that.
Yeah, when you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, it comes easy.
Mhm.
Doesn't have to be hard anymore. So
That's a joy.
that's great.
Do you have any questions of your own for me? I can
I
answer.
do. I do have some questions. I wanted to ask about your class. You mentioned your class. Is that when you go to a conference or something, you do a
Yeah,
class afterwards?
I do programs. I do in-person programs. I did them at Science. I did one at a local spiritual church, and they liked it so well. They've asked me to come back again this month. I did a talk for Dick one day when he needed someone to fill in for him, Dick Dingus, to fill in for him. I've done a talk at a church, but when I do what I call a live presentation, that's kind of like a teaching class for me, for them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh,
I
great.
thought that
Okay.
when I started to do this, I'd be doing like, 10 people here and 10 people there, like I was doing. Before, I would talk about NDEs and in church groups and women's groups and widows groups. That all I ever talked about was that one NDE. And that was safe and easy, but
Mhm.
it's not the real story. And this is what it has to be to
Yeah.
get out there.
Mm-hmm. You had mentioned after you left your body, you rolled over to look down. Do you remember that sensation? Okay. Were you faced up toward heaven, or how did you come out
That's
of your
interesting.
body?
Well, I was asked to be a part of a study for the Beijing Institute of Science. And I found that fascinating because what it did is it brought back vivid memories of everything. And
Mhm.
that when I rose up above my body, I was like this, I was horizontal facing down because some people come this way, some people go that way. I happened to go this way. But then when I actually rolled over looking up and then went up that way. It was face forward once I went through. And when I got to where I was going, I was standing this way. But it was I never had looked at the spatial part of it before. And she
Mhm.
made me remember the fragrances and the sounds because it brought back the memories. This was a long time ago, and I've had 2 strokes. So what it's done is it stimulated my memory to what was there and to remind me of the emotions. But it was moment looking down. So my head was over here looking down. And when it went up, I rolled and went up that way.
Oh, cool. I just was curious because
Mm-hmm.
I rolled over too in my near-death
Rolled over too.
experience. So I wanted to see how similar it
Yeah.
was.
Mm-hmm.
So when did you finally tell someone about your experience? It was just in
This
the church? Was that the first?
The first one, the simple NDE was at church with Clayton and the women's groups there at church, and that was
Mhm.
a long time ago. And then I've gone to other churches, and then each church I go, I do share that part, but I've never gone beyond the NDE ever. And then it was after getting hurt so badly that God said, "You have to tell it all." Nobody, even my children, did not know about the baby on Christmas Eve until they heard my first podcast, and I was very reluctant about to say that because I wasn't quite sure how they would respond to it. And they responded positively for me and said, I never liked him, Mom. I never liked Carl. But Mom, I didn't know that you went. Now I think they understand what some of the agony I was going through, that they thought I was just being unreasonable mother or being too strict or too whatever. And I was dealing with a lot myself. I think they respect me for now that look back at what I did and try to do for them and make their lives better. I've always put them out there to try to make things better for them. That I didn't talk about this until just a year ago. And
Mm-hmm.
my twins are 57 years old. So it's been a long time that I've kept this a secret in here.
Mm-hmm.
The first time I said it with Tia Renee, I think I got really teary. And I found that it's something I have to do, though, because it's a part of the story. Because I need to share that. And I'm told God told me, you need to do this. And I really didn't want to. And I didn't want to talk about the mental illness. And that's something I've just added today, by the way, for you to know that in my prayers last night, he said, you talk about depression, Sandra, talk about the truth. And this is today, you have really the most complete instruction I've had so far to do that.
Yeah. Well, I've read a lot about this in the because they don't know where to put a near-death experience. They have not created a slot for it. So quite frequently they'll say that they're bipolar because they can't explain it, or or what you were diagnosed with. But when need to create a slot for a spiritual experience.
I've been
So
talking to my children too, especially the two older ones, because they suffered the most. And they said they understood now that they're older, they understand. I think at first they're afraid I'm going to be crazy like mom because mom loses her temper all the time and that type of thing. But they realize that through the years, I've gone and taken care of myself by getting the help that I need. And then now that I'm well, uh, the doctor said, my psychiatrist said, well, you don't need me anymore. But I'm still followed by my GP naturally. That had I not met that one psychiatrist, I know I wouldn't be here today because he made me journal. He made me write because sometimes I would not acknowledge what I was really feeling, and I had all this suppressed anger. What they did one day is they put me in the doctor put me in a circle of a room filled with mattresses. I thought, what is this? This is really strange. And he said, we want to deal with your anger. And I said, I'm not angry. I guess. He put a Boston telephone book on that mattress and he just left me alone. And he said, and he started buzzing me with a question. I want you to feel how you feel about Carl. So I looked up his name in the phone book and tore it out. And how do you feel about, Dex Sutherland? Tore out that name. And pretty soon I was tearing up the whole doggone Boston telephone book. Then I took it and I crunched it all up and I threw it in the garbage can. Oh my gosh, I felt so much better. I was angry and I was able to do it in the right way to get rid of that anger, not blasting at my child or not getting, car rage or someone tooting at me with the horn. I was able to do this, realize I can be in charge. And that purple dragon, and I have a picture of that purple dragon. I found one. It's just that you're never going to get in my life again, ever. And I will never let you get in my life. And my kids respect me for that. And now that they're older, they're talking to me. And of course, they're seeing these too for the first time. As I said, they had never known the whole story of anything until just recently.
The purple dragon is a great idea for people to follow. Name it and then get rid of it. Yeah.
To me, it has. I'm a tangible person. I can't, in my mind, you have to get rid. If I can picture that purple dragon on my back, and that's how I could never get and tear it off my back. So I literally had to imagine myself taking this thing and throwing it away. My mind works that way. That's, I guess, how I process things. But if the purple dragon can help anybody else, get that purple dragon off your back.
Yeah.
You don't need her on your back.
Yeah. Another question I had is because you mentioned the wall when you flew to heaven. What did it look like?
The wall, the color? Excuse me.
Whatever it looked like, because you just mentioned the wall, but you didn't describe it.
The wall was tall, high, probably the equivalent of 2 stories high, 3 stories high, sand colored, beautiful sandstone, but there was really beautiful carvings on it. And it had a nice like a lintel on the top of it. And then we went inside. It was also beautiful inside too. So both sides were decorated. And the columns were not plain columns. They were beautifully decorated, more of a Greek column, that type of a top and a bottom to it. But
was it stone?
Yes.
Stone? Okay.
Stone. But yet when I saw the city over the top of the wall, it glistened like, I call it like ice, like diamonds. It glistened. It wasn't yellow. It was white, bright,
Mhm.
glistening. But the wall to me looked sandstone colored. And that's why you've seen way up above, just like this planet. And you come down in, and there's this, you get closer and closer. Then there's this big wall. You get closer and closer to the city. The city's over there. You come in here. There was Grandpa. I walk in, so you're getting closer and closer. But it was to me a sand colored with beautiful relief.
Okay, great. Did you have any of the after effects of a near-death experience?
Oh, yes. I don't wear a
And
wristwatch. I don't. I guess I didn't know this until I really got recently and more involved since I've only met the IONS people since last January. That some of us have problems with watches. The batteries don't last very well on our watches. Um, I came back with an intuitiveness that I never had before. I can sense what a person really is feeling. They may have that smile on the outside, but I can see in their eyes that they're hurting. And I tend to reach out to that. As I said, I've helped 7 people pass, and I was able to help them do that. That's not what I'm called to do now, but at the time it was. I can sometimes tell where a person is hurting or if they're sick, where they're sick, and more aware of anything and everything around me than I ever, especially feelings, energy of people.
you're
And
empathic.
yes. And then I have the gift of healing, but it's still so new to me. I'm almost afraid to talk about it. Deb Davis of our Cocoa Ions had shingles on her face. She's a beautiful lady, and I just met her, and I noticed that she had this rash on her face. I think the third month I was there, she goes, "Sandy, don't you have the gift of healing?" And I said, "I don't know." She goes, "I think you do." And I went over to her and I put this right hand against her face, and I said a prayer with her. And that week it was gone. It never came back.
Oh, wow,
So
that's
that
wonderful.
is a gift of healing. Thank you, God, for that. Because I checked with Deb,
Yeah,
and it's been a year now. She has no reoccurrence of it.
okay.
Sometimes if I sense that a person is really hurting, I'll say, "May I put my hand on your heart and just, pray for them, or may I pray for you?" At the spiritualist church, the lady I could tell that she had a stiff neck sitting in front of me in a chair, and I go, "May I touch your neck, please?" She said, "Yes, please." Oh, that feels good. I know that she was hurting. You can tell by the way she was studying and moving her shoulders. And I said, "I hope it lasts." I said, "I don't know, but I hope it lasts. If not, I'll see you in a couple of weeks. I'll do it again."
Yeah,
But I hope it works so far. I hope it continues to be, but it's not me, it's God. It really is. I'm just a messenger and a conduit by which he lets me share all these beautiful things that he's done in my life. It's not been an easy life. No, it has not been an easy life. It's been a very difficult life. I've lived through the illnesses that most people don't live through. I'm still here, so he isn't done with me
yeah.
yet. And I keep saying
You,
that. Nope.
you certainly have. You've had quite a time.
Yes, I have.
But before we go on, I want to tell the audience that if you're interested in the after effects of a near-death experience, which mine was the watch too, but I've learned that I can get the rubber,
Yes. Aren't they better?
and
The metal ones don't work.
it
Yes.
helps me be able to wear it, or I've come to terms with it. I'm not sure because mine was
I think
25
we come
years
to terms with it.
something like that. It doesn't last as long as it's supposed to, but it does last. Anyway, there's a list of the after effects on the International Association of Near-Death Studies website. And who knows, that list might be meaningful to someone that's listening today. Let's see. Can you tell the audience how to reach out to you?
Yes, I have an email, and I will answer emails, and it is Sandra, Sandra .Rose, Rose .inspires, Inspires @gmail.com. Sandra.Rose.inspires@gmail.com. And I will answer you. And if people comment on your podcast, I will also comment and thank them for their comments. I
Oh,
do.
great, great. And we hope they do.
I hope they
Um,
do too.
my last question is, do you have anything special you'd like to share with the audience before they head out for the day? Some kind of words of wisdom?
I'm giving you a lot of information today, and I hope that some of it has really hit home. Most important thing is remember heaven is real, God is real, and He's right there. You just have to ask him for his help. Love each other. We're all children together, but heaven is real.
Wonderful, wonderful. I agree. Heaven is real.
Yes.
For those who might have missed Sandra's contact information, I'll put it in the description area under the video, so it will be easily accessible. Now, as we head out for the day, I ask that you to go to sleep each night and wake up each day with a sense of wonder on where you will be guided, what you will be shown, and who will be placed in your pathway for you to learn from or to help, because life is the grandest mystical adventure you'll ever have. Now, before you go, don't forget to like and subscribe and share any video on my YouTube channel. Goodbye, everybody.